Hello, everyone.
Hey,
I think I like this view better. We're not
Yeah,
so like smushed together. Um,
nice.
Happy Halloween for anyone who's watching.
Yeah.
that's right. Absolutely.
I think we're all wearing blue. Did we coordinate this? Did we? I think we did.
I think we did.
We are all wearing blue. I got dressed kind of in the dark, so I just picked the first thing that was there, which is a hoodie. So, yeah, we are all wearing blue. Everything's cool.
Not orange for Halloween. It's okay.
That's
Orange isn't my color.
I have a Velma costume that I would always wear, so I have like an orange
Oh,
sweater for like, and everyone always be like Velma, and I'm like, yeah,
yeah. I love
nailed
that.
it. Oh man. So basically I wanted to take some time to talk about like the new hot topic of like AI and most companies are pushing AI, and it kind of puts data visualization in kind of like an interesting spot. Like how do you use AI with data visualization? And many of the tools like Tableau, ThoughtSpot, like some of the other reporting tools, they have these. So how do you use it going forward? And then I even had students that were just like, well, can't I just have AI create a dashboard for me? So it's just like let's start the conversation. So okay. Chris, do you want to talk about your thoughts of like
Yeah.
where you think AI and data visualization?
Well,
Yeah.
AI is obviously a buzzword, a key term everybody's throwing around the term agentic analytics, uh, agentic readiness, and so forth. But even with that, you still have a situation where everything revolves around the data model that you're building. If you don't have that, you can't still do any of those reports or dashboards. But you have to prepare it so your model, so that you have the data elements available so AI can actually speak to it. So that means understanding the structures of whatever it is that you include in your model. So like a semantic model per se. So if you have a database, you have some other disparate data sources that you want to throw into the mix. The idea here is to make sure that you have a relationship between all of those. Develop your metrics or key performance indicators, KPIs, or something I'm going to throw around quite a bit during this talk, and understanding what is going to happen. Because if with KPIs, the KPIs are going to help you answer questions so that you get not only the answers that you're looking for, but the adoption of the process. Because this is why we all develop dashboards and reports. It's for our companies, organizations, or whomever you're building this for, is to have adoption. And the only way to get adoption is to provide value. And so AI is not something to be feared. It's not going to take away your jobs. What it'll do is it'll make it a lot easier for you to do things faster. So do that laborious, data cleansing or work that you are dreading doing. Let AI do it and then put yourself in a different position. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Noelle. I'm sorry if you were going to say
No,
something.
yeah. I mean, I think that's an interesting thought too. And I think it's something that we've discussed even, I've discussed with others too. Something I've focused on in data visualization, whether I'm leading teams or training or whatever it may be, is you're not just a report builder, you're providing insights, right? So AI is going to help us move into that role a little bit easier. Step away from just being a report builder to actually helping make sense of that data, tell a story. So I feel like it's kind of like you were saying, it's definitely going to make that process easier too.
Because like for beginner developers, especially like you might just have learned the tool, but you don't know what chart is right for what kind of analysis. So you're kind of like avoid when you're having a conversation with your stakeholder and you're just like, I know my stakeholder wants to answer this question. How do I do that visually? rich insight quickly. It's like that whole science of like data storytelling that I don't think we could just ask AI like, hey, just create a dashboard for me. And,
Mhm.
ask AI like, hey, what data visualization should we have for this? And it may come back with something that we know in the field isn't correct, like pie charts. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
Pie, donut, no food.
no,
yeah,
no
basically,
charts.
yeah.
Where's Will Perkins? Says friends don't let friends do food charts. So,
Yeah, it'll get you. So one of the things that I try to tell, even people I mentor or teach, as far as students go in the universities or just anybody wanting to get in the field, is that, you know, understand the concepts of what a dashboard actually means. That means what problems are you trying to solve? What questions are you going to answer with the dashboard? Don't fixate on a particular tool to start, because then the tool is driving what you do on the dashboard, and it should be the other way around. And so if you understand the concepts of how to build a proper dashboard, it's kind of like what we did, Dawn, at TC in 2024. All the places you can go with the dashboard. We went back to the basic building blocks and the foundation of what it took to actually develop a dashboard. Like, what does that mean? Like, what process does one need to take at the very beginning to set up a dashboard? That has to happen, period. Otherwise, you're just developing a very little picture.
I think some people have to use AI to ask how to use AI too. Like what use case can I use for this brand new shiny tool? Like how can I use it to help my own development? Well, there's some obvious choices like, oh, I can use it to help me summarize like a meeting better, or
Mhm.
I could use it to write my year-end review.
Yeah.
Or help me with emails. But as far as data visualizations go, I mean, you can use image creators, like Canva AI and Microsoft Design, like they have image creators. So you don't run into that whole copyright issue, if you're trying to use icons and stuff like that. Like there's that fun part of AI, image generation. Whereas before you're scanning the internet and is this free? Like, do I have to like give rights, copyright, for this? So there's that part. I like the fact that it can help you code like some of the more complex calculations, because I know developers, we can get stuck in the whole, cannot mix an aggregate and non-aggregate calculation together. So it's like, help me AI, my brain is hitting a wall here. So
It's true.
No, it's so true. There's certain things that AI, if you're learning, if you're just getting into the field, right? And maybe you understand the concepts. Let's fast forward off of that. And you just understand, what you have to do or want to do for a dashboard. But you may not know from a tool perspective what it is, how to do it, right? So that is when AI can be of assistance and almost a virtual trainer in a way to help you build some of these complex, like, calculations to do something. And you may need AI. You mentioned before about having AI build a visualization or a dashboard for you. AI may be able to give you a start on certain applications. And then that start can be like, well, I don't like this. And it starts the artistic process of actually developing something that you really think will aesthetically, not just be aesthetically pleasing, but also informative. Because I have a hard time getting started because I'm a perfectionist and I want everything done right the first minute I try something. That's completely unrealistic, but I do suffer from that every dang time I do this. But sometimes it can be helpful to get something on paper and then you just redline up the hell out of it, and then you're just kind of like, okay, this is really what I want to do. So in that aspect, it could be a teaching thing, but it's never going to replace what a developer and a visualization specialist does. It just cuts that time.
Yeah.
in which you're getting started. I don't know, Noelle. I mean, what do you think about all that too?
I agree. I think that's the biggest thing. And maybe, other people are have that special skill to just like dig in and begin. I find that's even when I was in college, I remember studying or writing essays or whatever it was. I remember my hardest thing was just starting. And if I had ChatGPT or AI then, it would have taken all that procrastination or, all that time I spent just trying to start like the first sentence. And I agree. I think it's the same thing regardless of like what your job is and where you are, but especially in like analytics and data. I mean, it can help you, to your point earlier, Dawn, you were saying like what chart or graph should I use? Especially if you're new in the industry, new to a certain, let's say you're on a team and you've never worked with marketing data before. You can use it to help understand like how to explore marketing data. What does it mean? What are the basic metrics? What are some great visuals generally used in marketing and why? It's like your own little like teacher. Instead of going to Google and trying to find all these different articles and things, like it brings that all together for you. So yeah, I think it definitely helps with that starting aspect and takes like your time to build or time to develop something like a lot quicker. What about you, Don?
You're making me think of like that question that I was asked about, like, how do I start even persona analysis? And I was like, well, let's fire up the old Google AI and see what it says, like just to kind of push them to get them to start thinking about like, well, I know how you could start this, but like at your fingertips, how about, your clients, and it's never going to take away that whole client conversation that you have to have. It's AI is not psychic. It does not know what your stakeholders want.
No.
Definitely it doesn't.
That's a real good point. Yeah.
Yeah, it can cut time though, and this is a time saver. And I want to touch on this briefly. I want to get deep into it, but it's people worry about being replaced by AI. You're not going to be replaced by AI. You're going to be replaced by someone who can use AI better than you, because it'll just cut time. It'll cut time from what you need to do, because as well as I do, anybody who asks you for something, it really means they wanted it 2 weeks ago, but they're just getting around to asking you now. And so any way that you can cut time on research or a writer's block like I just described with the dashboard, which any way that you can cut some time off, or maybe data cleansing, or maybe something like that, AI can help do those laborious tasks that can say, all right, you need this heavy lifting done, get an agent or tell AI to do it, and then come back to me with what you find. And then at that point, that should stimulate enough in your head to say, okay, now I have something to get started. Because really, it's just writing a dashboard is literally writing a visual paper, like a visual thesis. You have an idea that you want to test, and you're hoping that the data will support that. So you do that, you get your theme, you have your data that supports it, and 9 times out of 10, your initial thesis on it will turn different because the data says something else. Yeah. And that's a good part of it all. But at least getting started, you use AI to get off the ground in most cases for me. So I don't know,
Yeah.
I've had similar experiences.
Yeah, I definitely, especially like thinking of being in healthcare for 13 years and then joining Chase as a bank, and being in a different industry, not just a bank, but the auto finance specific sector. It's very different. It's very niche. And I've definitely used it to understand the business sometimes. Like I understand finance, I understand loans and leases. I've taken them myself for cars, right? But what are they really looking for key insights? I've definitely dug into some reporting and asked those questions myself of like, what is this business user who's going to be using this dashboard, using this data? What are they really looking for? not just your basic like profitability. They want revenue. Like what else are their drivers? I feel like that helps a lot. Because to your point earlier, it is the aspect of your job going away is like you just need to adapt. If you're in technology is always going to get smarter, it's always going to evolve, and you're always going to be adapting. And I just think that's inherent in our world now. Now it affects everyone. It may not have affected every industry, but now it affects every industry. I even think of my mom who has her nursing license and she's retired, and she goes, I couldn't go back now. Like the technology and everything has changed so much. It's everywhere. So yeah, I just think, sorry, I kind of went to a different direction with that question.
No, that's
but
perfect.
yeah, I think it kind of does. It kind of drills into that aspect too. Like it's just going to be there, and it's not a negative thing. I think it'll definitely, it helps with a lot of those. It's almost like a little school or a little trainer that you have in your pocket to help you with things. So.
Yes, and if you Google the different kinds of AI models, because I was like, what kind of, what kinds of ways can, data visualization can be used? And it's just like supervised learning, unsupervised learning, which we had already talked about. Generative AI, which we talked about, image generators such as the Canva AI, but the large language models are what we talked about with writing our emails and I doing code. Like large LLMs can help you with generating code. I know there's also the point of privacy with large language models. If you use ChatGPT and stuff like that outside of an environment, it's open because AI learns from AI. So then there's like, well, do you want your search fields to be, out there for everyone? So there's that whole thing. Like, are there private models that you can use? And are there public models? So there's always that issue as well. So.
Yeah, you're now getting into the governance, and this is where the governance and putting guardrails up on everything. So, you're talking about where do you want your AI to learn from?
Yeah.
And what do you want to do for putting guardrails up on what data items the AI engine is going to access? Because like you said, if you don't put guardrails, it'll go anywhere to find it. So, I mean, you have two types, really classifications of AI. So you have your narrow, which would be focused to that particular application. Then you have general, which is like your ChatGPT that can go anywhere and everywhere to get that information. So if you open that up with, say, company, intentions, then you're putting potentially company things out in the interwebs, so to speak, and that could potentially obviously be a significant privacy issue. So you want to follow the same lines of process when you're developing your data model for any kind of reporting. What do you want to report on? And if I can't lay eyes on it, AI shouldn't be laying eyes on it either. And if you can, then you want to make sure you have at least some sort of security on who can access that model. And then you want to make sure that you want to have AI aligned with your security for those particular data sets. So the governance aspect of AI becomes incredibly important. Governance is probably one of the more topics that doesn't get enough publicity when it comes to reporting anyway, because governance really should be a part of any sort of data model construction that happens at all. And so it has to be a step. It shouldn't be a step like eating your lima beans at dinner. It should be a step that has to be embraced and attacked early, because if it attacks you, that generally means a breach has happened and you're on the defensive. And that's the quickest way to get shut down. And you don't definitely want to do that. There have been some well-known data breaches that we don't need to get into great detail on, but a lot of those could have been halted if there was some governance in place. So
Yeah, it's a
And
good point.
sometimes, I'm sorry. Sometimes the grumbling that can occur whenever you mention, oh, governance controls, and it's just like, well, headache now, save you a headache later. It's like the necessary thing that needs to happen.
And I
So
feel
the
like
other,
it's,
go ahead.
sorry, I was going to say, I feel like it's with every iteration of data, right? Before AI, it was big data and what's out there. And same thing with companies using free data before like data was being sold. So I feel like every iteration goes through the same thing. It's just a new version of it.
Hmm. Yeah, it's learning. So you're controlling the realm of which your AI bot is learning. And that's really what you have to kind of master to protect your organization, your school, or your company is under what parameters are we going to allow our AI engine to learn from? And then you set those up, you should be okay. I mean, obviously, you don't want information to fall into the wrong hands because AI just wants to learn. It wants to satisfy your request, and it's going to do whatever it can to satisfy your request, whether it's legal internally or not, or externally. I mean, it's going to find anything it can to do that. So when you go to ChatGPT or talk to Siri or talk to, you're getting answers. It's going through wherever it can to get that. So you want to make sure you can trace where all the data is coming from. So some, I guess, requirements, traceability of how a question's being answered. And that's just gets developed with your LLM. Everybody's developing, a lot of people are developing their own LLMs right now. And that's part of what a company is using to stand out in this AI arms race right now. So you control what playground you want it to learn from,
Yeah. That's interesting because the other day I said something to Don, and it's very similar to what we talked about, but it's a funny anecdote about the show Silicon Valley on HBO. And I don't know if you watched it, Chris, but that there was a clip online, and this is something that we regularly talk about with like teammates and friends, like Don and I, about AI and the model and exactly what you said. Like you have to keep these parameters. And the funny little snippet was they got at the last season, they got like an AI bot. And the one guy, the main guy of the show, he's saying, did you give him authorization to rewrite code talking about their AI bot? And he's like, yeah. Well, he just wiped out all of the code for the past 10 years. And he's like, well, he technically did what I asked, which was fix any bugs. And there were so many bugs that the AI bot just cleared all of the code, not the broken code, all of the code. So that's just a good example to your point of like the parameters and how you need to be very specific when you're working with AI and using it, whether it's something like that it's developing for you or you're using it as a tool on the side.
And Raphael, another Tableau ambassador that's listening, brought up the point of, will your future candidates think about how this is going to change the workplace? You are going to have to look at future candidates and ask them, do you know SQL? Do you know prompt engineering? Do you know the right questions to ask if you're using AI to generate the responses that you need? So it's just going to refine what we're going to need.
Or do they need SQL skills? Because now a lot like these tools we're using, Databricks, Genie, and I mean Snowflake has things built in now too. If you have something wrong with your code, it'll diagnose your error for you.
Yeah.
Will we be doing SQL soon?
Right.
Do we need to know it? I don't know. That is a good question.
I think you do, because ultimately you're the last line of defense of QA.
Yeah.
And you cannot ignore the basic building blocks of reporting. Even though AI is coming closer, in some cases it can do a lot of things like you were mentioning, Noelle, about how it can develop some of these SQL statements. It troubleshoot some of these SQL statements. You still can't lose track of, well, maybe my SQL statement has changed. Maybe I'm not getting the right data. It can develop develop it for you. You still need to understand how to tweak it, because if you're fighting with the prompt will think it knows one thing, but you're trying to articulate something else, and you may keep doing this. Two ships
Yeah.
down in the night. You still want to have that foundation of understanding how to build a SQL statement, or what kind of SQL statement to build in a given situation, nested SQL, Tableau, all that stuff. Because if you don't, then the interaction with the AI bot becomes very frustrating, because you're trying to talk one level and the AI is expecting you at a different level, or here, whatever. Regardless, it's not a unified plane where you can have a conversation and actually get value out of the response. So I always preach, you still need to figure out how to add and do calculations if you don't have the tool. So when calculators came out, everybody's like, oh, I don't need to add anymore. Yeah, you do. So, what happens if your battery dies or whatever? You have calculators on your phone. We have so many different ways, but what happens if this goes away? And so you can't just say, I don't know how to add 44 and 71. That wouldn't be a good look. So, it's just kind of like, you still want to make sure you understand and have a clear confidence in SQL development, troubleshooting SQL, Tableau, prompt engineering. You're just going to have more topics with AI that you will want to interview for, or a candidate should have dip a toe in the water in. Do you know what I mean?
Someone from LinkedIn mentioned, just because the syntax is correct doesn't necessarily mean the output is correct. And that is definitely something. Hallucinations occur, and you have to know enough about SQL, if you're searching for SQL, or Python even, to know where it's wrong. I had that issue yesterday when I was trying to search a solution for data scaffolding, and it's like, well, this isn't right. What is suggested is not right. So, let me search again. So, and Raphael said something about, I remember those TI 82s we had to buy. Sold calculators.
Oh man, I was thinking about that as Chris was talking. I'm like, what's changed? I remember, believe it or not, I went to school for accounting. And I remember doing T accounts. And I'm not that old, but I remember doing physical T accounts, and I get out of college and we're using software for it. So yes, you still need to understand the basics. Yes, I agree. But I think maybe being an expert I think there's going to be more, there's less barriers to entry, I should say, with analytics than maybe there was before.
Daniel from LinkedIn asked, do you think data governance type of roles will become more relevant as AI keeps getting easier to manage and more accessible?
So
that's a good one.
I'm smiling because data governance roles should be relevant, should have been relevant. It should be more publicized as they are, regardless of AI. And it's pushed off into a corner more often than not, and it never should be that way. So if you're going to put any guardrails on anything that you're reporting and having AI interact with, governance becomes pretty critical. So as long as there's data, there's governance need for those articles of data. So, this is why I, really kind of preach understanding the concepts over just a tool all the time. Because if you know data and you know how to organize data, you know how to run SQL, you know how to govern it. As long as people are breathing, there's going to be data about it. You will always have a position in this industry understanding the data. So yes, data governance probably will become much more apparent a position, or more trendy a position, because AI has no guardrails right now unless you put them up.
And I agree with your earlier statement of saying that this is only just going to change the industry. If we look back, look back at one of my first jobs was at Ritz Cameras, digital photography. right out of college. Like, are there Ritz cameras? Are there camera stores like anymore? Like, there's a few, but they aren't as prevalent as they were because everybody can get digital cameras from like Best Buy and Walmart and that kind of thing. So it's just shifted. It's just changed. But now there's businesses where like you can order your prints online, get them on Canvas and so on. It's just a shift. It's just, it's always going to change. Like our industries are always going to change. So I don't think it's anything to fear. I think if anything, we should embrace change. And that's one thing I always recommend to students is like have more than one tool in your tool belt. Don't just know Tableau. Don't just know Alteryx. Like take time upon yourself, like to learn Databricks and other out there. Because the more that you know, the more that it makes you more marketable. So, get experience with different AI tools, not just ChatGPT or Google AI. Like,
Yeah, that's so true. You just have to understand why you're doing something. And then the tool to do it will work itself out. And so just don't pick up a tool and then ask the question, why am I using it? Because you will be frustrated as all hell trying to get there. And that's not a good experience. It's going to make you resent a tool and why you're even using it. And that's not what this is about. You want to make sure that you have a direction. Think of it this way. You just are not going to get in the car and then ask, halfway through driving for about 15 minutes, where am I going? You're not going to do that. So why would you do that with this? You would need to understand what it is that you want to do first before you actually pick up a tool and understand what it can do. Because if you know what you want to do, the tool will help say, okay, maybe this tool will be better than this one, or I know this one, but I think this one might be a better fit. That allows you to make that decision earlier in the process.
Earlier, I said that AI isn't psychic, but I didn't talk about predictive AI. That's one topic we did not talk about, such as forecasting and because we're talking about hallucinations and those kinds of things. It's like you'll have to know the calculations did it predict the sales correctly? Did it, is it going with any specific model? So that's once again where like you're still going to be required to know to do the math behind the ask to make sure that it's, calculating it correctly. So any thoughts on predictive AI?
Oof.
Yeah.
I personally haven't dug too much into it myself, but I am thinking about it in the way, at least at work, they're starting to get into more tools for our area that does modeling and forecasting, right? And so that's definitely one area I myself probably need to train up on, right? Because it's something that I'll be hopefully providing guidance on one day. But I think it goes along with the lines of everything we've been talking about. How do you know? I mean, I guess there's been modeling tools for a while, so I could go either way, but how do we know that it's calculating it correctly? I think similar to any other forecasting tool, you need to give it boundaries, you need to give it conference intervals, you need to feed it some information so that it's correct. So I think it's similar where it will need those guardrails like Chris was talking about. Yeah,
I mean, you still have to understand concepts of time series and understanding how data is bucketed, which is imperative in order to do any sort of relevant and respective prediction of any sort of KPI or whatever question that you want to have answered. So you still need to go through the process. You need to understand how that data is being bucketed, whether it be daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever. And then you can go and figure out how that looks. The more volume of data that you have, the more confident you can be in your predictions. Now, I mean, I'm going to mention some tools here. I mean, I know Tableau has Pulse Out. You also have Tableau Next. Alteryx has some tools out where it can do some predictions as well. There are predictive models that you can build in workflows and so forth, machine learning models as well. But all that is predicated upon having the data in the right type of buckets, time buckets, in order for you to compare that. Then you can figure out what sort of factors come into play. And that's something AI can poke its head in and say, hey, based off of your data model, these things could be fields whichever are in your model may have a positive or negative effect on the trend. And so based off of, it'll also give you a confidence range. So sometimes you'll see a blue data point in there where it actually points out what your data is. And then you'll see like a light blue shade of upper and lower confidence limit for that particular range, for that KPI. And then at that point, if you're saying mid-month and you have a monthly, KPI that you're doing, you see a dotted line or something like that, and that's your prediction, and that's based off of what data is already in there. So it's doing some of that. What I'd love to see, what kind of decision model that they're using, absolutely. But there are times in which you can actually just set the table so you can have that conversation and test it against maybe a model that you build in another tool and see how close it is.
That's a good point.
And I just wondered if, from our conversation, if it would know like concepts like data scaffolding, like and stuff like that. Like, what do I do? How do I create my dashboard if my data is missing dates? Like, I just asked, Google AI that, and it said show missing values for headers. That's not what I was getting at. Use a date scaffold was number 2, so it's not quite there yet. But some of these things are not quite there. So doesn't replace all of us yet.
Still have to understand context. You still have to give it the context of what you want the AI to perform on. So if you give the context and kind of understand it from hey, this is what I need you to look at and answer my question. So some of these models that you'll see maybe in Tableau, Tableau Next, Genie, and Databricks, Alteryx has Aiden, and you have to give it kind of a context of what do you expect it to look at in order for it to make its relevant decision. So once you do that and set the table, so to speak, you should be able to at least get a more correct answer, but you may also have, it's learning you as much as you're learning it. So the interaction is really critical, because as you interact with your engine, your bot, it's going to be better the more you use it, because it'll understand kind of what you're trying to figure out, what you want to do. It may, Dawn, Noelle, myself, we all may have different questions. So it's learning different styles and trying to figure out what's going on. And God forbid, we're having voice now being thrown into this as well, not just text. So when you throw voice into your input strategies as well, that brings an interesting, aspect to the AI game as well. So it's pretty neat. Right now, we're in a really cool time. It's like an AI arms race, and whoever, we are as the consumer, the winner of all this, because everybody else is going to up their game, and we're going to be able to do things that we, when I first started doing Y2K work for Circuit City, you were talking about working for Brit's Camera. I was doing Y2K work in Richmond, doing making sure that the world didn't implode when we went to 4-digit years. It's a far cry from what I'm doing right now. It's kind of wild. So, yeah. Oh man.
What are your thoughts on maintaining like a prompt repository, for like new people when they come to the team, or just kind of like, hey, here's the kinds of questions I've asked my LLM before for whatever analysis, or then maybe having like a round robin with your team. What are your thoughts on that? Is that a good idea?
No,
or is it not?
I think it's a great idea. I mean, it's something I've been looking into myself. I think prompt engineering is, as part of this conversation, like a new skill. It's definitely something. It's here, and I think that's a great way to your point, if you're in the managing capacity or team capacity, it's just different. It's like knowledge sharing, like we do already when it comes to dashboards or using different tools. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I think any way that you can collaborate with your team
Mhm.
is great. I mean, the demos that I do for my company, I've gone through and been really meticulous on how I need to ask questions in order to get the data that I'm expecting back in order to proceed through my
Yeah.
use case. And so one of the things that's really challenging in any sort of LLM is, if I ask the same question 5 times, am I going to get the same answers 5 times? I want to know what I'm going to be getting. So that repetition, that preparation to be able to ask these questions and know what you're going to get back, having that recorded somewhere in a share folder or whatever is valuable for someone who may be just starting. You may win the lottery, you may not care about this anymore. And someone else comes in here and you want to have something to help that individual out. And
Yeah.
if you're able to record that somewhere and have it saved somewhere, that'll help that transition, whether you're there to physically talk to that person or not. So,
Yeah.
All great points. I'm glad this is recorded.
it's always
Rewind.
Yeah, we always get to when we always get the group together, we always come up with something. You know this.
Yeah.
It's always good conversation.
I love brainstorming. Like sometimes I'll just set up a session to like brainstorm with others, because like, that's something AI won't replace either, is like the human interaction, because your unique experience is different than my unique experience. So that's why I love teaching so much, is because people would bring up things that I would never think of, and I'm like, wow, that is so cool. So thanks for taking the time to meet and kind of have this conversation about like the hot topic that is, out there everywhere, the AI race, So thanks everybody.
Thanks for bringing us together. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
No problem.
Everyone who
It won't be the
joined.
last time. We will definitely do this again. It will not be the last time. But thanks everybody for listening, and we'll post the replay later if you weren't able to make it. All right. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.